Another preseason monitor then. In this preseason monitor, I'm going to talk about Everton's youngest player in this series. I'm talking about Harrison Armstrong. Very excited to talk about him. And let me say, so far, I think Harrison Armstrong has been one of the sneaky preseason winners. I think the last player I covered in Merlin Röhl has clearly been the biggest winner of preseason. He has played himself to the forefront. Second player I think who's had a positive preseason is Tierno Barry, at least in terms of clearly winning the positional battle with Beto. You could argue Asnu in terms of reminding the fans that he's a capable left back and that he certainly looks better than Mikolenko. But let's talk about Harrison Armstrong. I think he had a good preseason, looked good in that midfield, and I think this is another big season for him, you could argue. I think it's when I looked it up, I think I was still surprised that Harrison Armstrong is still only 19. Feels like he's been around for a long time now. I think I remember seeing his name now for at least 3 seasons, and I looked it up. Yes, he's been in and around the professional football for at least 2 seasons now, and he's still only 19. So he's a massive, massive talent. I think it's fair to say he is Everton's academy's biggest talent since at least Anthony Gordon, the most promising Evertonian coming out of the academy we've had in a while. And yeah, I think for a 19-year-old, he looks already like a player that is ready to go. I think he's ready for a professional footballing career at the age of 19. Because if you look at the amount of games, the amount of football Harrison Armstrong has already played on a professional stage for a 19-year-old is very impressive. He's had good minutes during his loan spell at Derby County, and he has had very good minutes during his loan spell last season at Preston. Then Everton controversially decided to recall him with a couple of injured players and players out at the AFCON. So Armstrong came back, which I thought at the time was an okay decision. Like he had already fulfilled in a way the purpose of his loan at Preston, which is to show that he can compete at championship level. But then overall, looking back, maybe it wasn't the best decision to recall him. Maybe he could have done with more game time. Because yes, he had some game time at Everton, but he played like around 500 to 600 minutes, probably less than he would have hoped for. And some of these minutes he also played out of position. Sometimes he was asked to play as a right winger, which was I don't know. Even everyone knew that that would never work out. He's not a winger, and still, he's already had a pretty impressive career for a 19-year-old. He's the player I'm almost asking myself, or I find myself asking, like, what's the best next step for him? I think there are two options. Either he stays at Everton, and then the question is, is he already good enough to be a regular starting player at Premier League level for Everton, or will he go out for another loan, one last loan? He already has the level, in my opinion. He has everything you want from a youngster. He has the experience, he has the talent, he has the mentality. It's just a question of isn't that midfield for Everton a little bit crowded? But let's talk a little bit about Harrison Armstrong's profile. That's always what I'm assessing. Like I said, all the players I've covered so far are players that still we have a lot of questions about, that we are not 100% sure yet what type of players they are. Players who are yet not the finished article, or who Everton fans still need to learn a little bit about. And I think that still also applies to Harrison Armstrong. I thought about this a lot, and I came to the conclusion by also looking at his heat maps, analyzing some of his clips, watching him closely in preseason. He is also another, in a positional sense, box to box midfielder, meaning you won't be surprised to see him have a positive impact on the game all over the pitch. I think in this crowded midfield, Armstrong might be the most definite number 8 in that midfield. I will do a separate video where I will focus on the Everton midfield, because I think it's an interesting topic worth discussing. And I think Armstrong for me will be the most definite number eight. In a positional sense, he for me sits right at the halfway line because I think he seems to be equally as good in his own half as he is good in the opponent's half. He seems to me to be equally as good with the ball as he is defending. I think he's honestly a well rounded midfielder. Arguably, just in terms of profile, I'm not saying in terms of quality, he might be the most well rounded midfielder of all of them. He's a number eight, the most definite number eight. And then let me just give him some attributes, what stands out to me. I will say I'm honestly a big fan of him because I like he is a very tall but lean central midfielder. So he has a build that reminds you of midfielders like Sergio Busquets. So I like that tall but elegant midfielders. It is one of my favorite archetypes of players, and Armstrong falls into that category. And I think he plays in an elegant way. The way he plays, it looks kind of effortless. And yeah, he's just someone you say, oh, he oozes class. He looks like this kid is has a natural talent for football. He makes it look effortless. I will admit I'm a fan. Everton should do everything for a Harrison Armstrong to flourish as a player in Everton. At Everton, right? He's an academy player. He's a scouser. Like we Everton almost everything is set. You have the big talent. He's a scouser. He's a local. Everyone should be very interested in having Harrison Armstrong be a breakthrough player for Everton this season. As much as I see Evertonians rave about Harrison Armstrong and say he's a class player, I think so far in this preseason we focus so much on transfers, understandably so because the squad needs them. But I think we, as a fan base, we should be very vocal about Armstrong. We should see this season as an opportunity, as a potential breakthrough for Harrison Armstrong, and you should do everything for him to turn into another success story from the Everton Academy and another Scouser who can leave an impact. Like maybe at this stage will be hard to say like Wayne Rooney, but maybe leave an impact like an Anthony Gordon. So Armstrong one day becoming an England international. Why not? It's not unrealistic. He's an under 19th international already. For a 19-year-old, he has a lot of professional experience and he has all the attributes you want. It's just about his career continuing to progress in that direction, and Everton should do everything to help Armstrong achieve that. So let me talk about some of Armstrong's strength now. I think what I already said, he's an elegant midfielder who makes it look effortless. And I think in terms of an attribute, you would say his biggest strength might be his composure and his passing ability. He just has very good basic technique and quick feet. Perfect profile for a midfielder. He's has composure on the ball. He has a very good passing game. So far from what I've seen, he's playing quick passes in the midfield to easily deal with a little bit of pressure from the midfield. He seems to be very very good at that. And against the ball, I noticed that he has a good timing in slide tackles, and he seems to have a very good basic aggression to him. In that sense, I would say he's a typical Scouse midfielder, a typical academy product from Everton, personifying values that Everton as a club cherishes. Right? He has aggression in midfield. He likes to tackle. He likes to get stuck in. So on paper, wonderful combination of attributes. Tall, composed midfielder with a very nice quick feet, good passing game combined with nice aggression in midfield. Then maybe on the weakness point of view, because I always try to not make my videos sound like just an idealized version without any actual realistic basis to them. Definitely so far he lacks physicality. He's very lean. He seems a little bit lightweight. So I think on the physical part, he could do well to get a little bit stronger still, because you can definitely see that he could easily get eaten up by some more physical Premier League fielders. And I think what he has to improve too, so far his, let's say, final product, his output. Because yes, he has had already a lot of minutes. And from what I've seen, the fans of Derby and Preston have spoken highly of him. But if Harrison Armstrong is a number eight, so not the deepest midfielder in your team, then you ideally want some offensive output from your number eight as well. So I think he has to show that he's capable of scoring a couple of goals and adding some assists. I think he already has some professional assists. I remember an assist for Idrissa Gueye he gave away against West Ham in, I think, 24-25. And I think last season he had a very nice assist in the League Cup game against Mansfield. But I think he can still improve his final product in the offensive third. So now something, another section I want to add is what type of player he reminds me of. So I mentioned some of his attributes in terms of profile, and I thought which type of player would be the ideal comparison, like something like a mental model. And I came up with two players. The first player within Everton, I would say, is James Garner. I think Harrison Armstrong, you could argue, is a mini James Garner. He plays almost in the same positions, has the box to box toolkit, being both able to contribute offensively and defensively. Good passing game. Where I would say they are slightly different, I think Ghana overall is someone that plays slightly deeper and has already more. He has shown more repeatable qualities. He has a good shot. He has leadership qualities, and I think also defensively, Ghana has already clearly proven that he has these capabilities. Overall, I think Armstrong I see as slightly advanced. I think he has, in terms of potential, more to offer going forward. He has, I think, a little bit more cleaner technique, looks a little bit like plays with a little bit less effort than Garner. So I would slightly see a differentiate between them. And the second player is not an Everton player. The second player I came up with as a good model to compare him to is Darren Fletcher, the former central midfielder for Manchester United. They both have the same height. They both tall, lean players who play a well-rounded game. They can contribute offensively, but they can also defend. They like to add a slight tackle. They have a good passing game. They're good at distributing the ball. They are both British. They're both, like I said, tall and lean. They both have, in Darren Fletcher's sense, he had that good old Scottish aggression in midfield. He's a fighter. And I think Armstrong has that too in the Scouse version. He has that natural aggression that comes with the environment he learned his football. And I think Fletcher also during his Manchester United days, he was often one of the most deepest midfielders in that Manchester United squad under Alex Ferguson, without being the typical number six, without being a typical destroyer on the number six. He was a deep sitting number eight that distributed balls and did so many and contributed to the team in so many ways. You saw him distribute the ball from the back, but then also pop up in the opponent's box or at the edge of the box and score some important goals. I think in that sense, I see many similarities to Harrison Armstrong there. I think if Harrison Armstrong's career, if it flourishes, I think it could look something like that of Darren Fletcher. What needs to happen for Harrison Armstrong to have a successful 26-27? I think the biggest question for him is game time. Of course, he's 19. He needs to play. And the biggest question is, will he be given enough time to play in the actual season? In preseason so far, he has featured in every game. And in my opinion, during the time when Harrison Armstrong played, that was always the better phase of the game for Everton. I think he was always, whenever he played, I felt Everton were playing their better football. Also against Stuttgart, he was in the first half involved. He was heavily involved. I think he got a lot of minutes already in preseason. But will he get enough minutes in the Premier League season? That is the big question. Will he get more minutes than he got last season, where he didn't get many minutes? And now Everton have added two more midfielders. Okay, Idrissa Gana Gay is gone, but we have added Hayden Hackney and Christian Norgard. Certainly, Hackney would be a player that plays in a pretty similar position, and that is without mentioning Kiernan Dewsbury Hall and James Garner. So he has strong competition in that midfield, and it's hard to see, unfortunately, that Moyes will give Harrison Armstrong, as it stands, a lot of minutes. Can he win a place in a rather crowded midfield? And then I think it's clear by now. It's I don't even need to mention it. Of course, tactically, Moyes should play him as a central midfielder. Don't play him as a winger or as a makeshift right back or anything stupid like that. He is most definitely only a central midfielder. He's not the fastest. He's not a winger. He has a perfect skill set for midfielder. So please play him in the midfield. Then I don't really care. You can even try him, in my opinion, as the sitting, as a holding midfielder, as a number six. Of course, he would then need some defensive support. So maybe don't play Armstrong and Hackney together. And then a number 10, I think that would be too lightweight in midfield. But maybe, I don't know, Armstrong together with Norgard, Armstrong and Garner. I could see that. Or play him even as a 10. You can also try that. That's where I want to see him. And let me be sure, I want to see Armstrong be given a lot of minutes. I don't want, that is more a preview for my midfielder video. I don't want the same thing happening that happened last year, where it's basically two or three players have a guaranteed spot in the team, and the team, they never change it up. We have so many options now. Armstrong being one very good one. Play him, change it up. Don't always just automatically play Garner and Dewsbury Hall. As good as they have been, they are not automatic locks in every scenario. I think these other players, Hackney and Armstrong, they can compete with them. And on a good day, they can have a better performance than them. Second point, what does Armstrong himself have to do? What is the next step, in my opinion? So far, in terms of his development, he hasn't got to do much different. I think he has had a very good development so far. Every season, he seems to come back stronger. This preseason, again, he looks better. He looks like he's ready for the Premier League. But if I were to say, what does he need to, that's a tall ask, but what does he need to do next? I think show us, maybe that sounds weird, but start to show a stronger presence on the pitch. So far, I think he has always just looked nice and tidy, and he's looked impressive in, for a 18 or 19-year-old, he just looked calm and collected. But I think the next step would be that there are games where Armstrong really stands out, where he has some key actions in the midfield, be it win a decisive ball that leads to a promising counterattack, have a killer through ball, play like in a repeatable pattern, clearly dominate the midfield. The next step would be develop a stronger presence, stand out a little bit more than what you've done. And then, yeah, what would be the aim? I think last season he played 520 minutes in half a season. I think for it to be a good season for Armstrong, whatever ends up being the scenario, he should at least aim to go have like between 1,500 and 2,000 minutes under his belt. Yeah, either in the Premier League, or that would be the alternative scenario, which I could still see happening. If Everton decide one last time to loan him out, then get those minutes or even more wherever you're loaned out to. I've thought about it. What type of loan would I still be somewhat happy with? I think championship makes no sense. He's already shown that he's good enough for that. It would have to be a first division like abroad. And I think the most suitable league for him would be actually the Bundesliga. I could see Armstrong go to a promoted side from the Bundesliga, or two teams I identified that might be interested in him could be Werder Bremen or 1. FC Köln, Cologne. Because I think they don't have too many central midfielders, and maybe such teams would be interested in having an extremely bright central midfielder that can pull the strings for your team. So if he goes on loan, I would say Bundesliga, and then the aim would be for him to play more or less as a regular in the central midfield for a Bundesliga side. And then, of course, if he achieves that, his personal aim should be that he's given a new deal at the end of the season, because I believe his current deal with Everton expires in 28. So he should earn a new deal with Everton. And I hope the club maybe even gives him a new deal now, because I think he has already shown enough to be given a new deal at this current age. Really, I'm really excited about this player. I'm struggling to see that this season will be his breakthrough year because of the cluttered midfield, and I can't see which player he will replace. I can't yet see a realistic world where he plays more or the same as Garner or Dewsbury Hall. But part of me wishes that to happen. I wish nothing more than Harrison Armstrong to be this breakout player for Everton. How amazing that would be to have this 19-year-old kid from Liverpool be a sensation in that Everton midfield. I really hope it happens. I don't see it, but I really hope it does. Let me know what you think about Harrison Armstrong. What is the next step for him? What does he have to do to really, really give the manager no choice? And what do you think also the manager has to do? Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your week. Let's see what Everton do against Newcastle. And see you soon. Adios.